everyone, and welcome to episode 64 of Piv's NXT Point of View podcast. My name is Bill Pivets. If you guys want, follow me on Twitter at bpiv_sports. And if you don't mind, rate and review the show on iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, and wherever else you guys listen to your show. I would appreciate the support. So heading into this week, we knew that Bayley and Nia Jax would face off, and that Blake and Murphy would face Austin Aries and a partner of his choosing. And the first match on the card was Blake and Murphy against Austin Aries and his mystery partner of Shinsuke Nakamura. Fans, before Nakamura was introduced, were chanting for Bobby Roode. Blake and Murphy discussed who would start, and then Aries really didn't care, and he drop-kicked Murphy and got a near fall just from that. After that, Nakamura and Aries worked over Murphy. They worked well as a team, landing some nice double-team moves. Blake distracted Aries, which allowed Murphy to get some offense in. Aries rolled away and got the hot tag to Nakamura and landed some serious strikes. He landed his knee in the corner and the exploder suplex, and then finished, I think he landed the Kinshasa on Murphy to get the win. Really quick match, really not the most competitive match, but it played into the storyline that followed. We finally got the blow-off. Alexa Bliss was pissed, again, that Blake and Murphy lost. She kind of shook her head, walked backwards up the ramp, and then did like the throwaway motion that she's done with these two. Blake and Murphy kind of stared at each other, and then Blake left, leaving Murphy at ringside alone. Interested to see how this goes. I know Alexa Bliss, I believe, is dating Blake, so I don't know if that's going to be a little awkward for Murphy, odd man out, if Blake and Alexa are going to be like their own little thing, or is it just all three people going their separate ways? Not too sure. We did get a follow-up segment a little later, but it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I did like the pairing of Austin Aries and Nakamura. I was kind of hoping that it would be Bobby Roode as well, but the one-off team of Aries and Nakamura was pretty cool for some hardcore fans. Casey Kelly interviewed Bayley about her thoughts entering her match with Nia Jax tonight. She pretty much said the same old stuff that she said last week. That's going to be like a repeat of London. Really nothing major. And we were told that there would be a recap of the house show regarding the Joe Balor brawl that happened. And we got a video of the announcement William Regal made on Tuesday that Joe and Balor would meet in a steel cage match at TakeOver. A first for NXT. And I love how the stipulations are rare in NXT. We had the 30-minute Iron Woman match. We had the ladder match between, I think it was Owens and Balor last year in Brooklyn. We have a 2 out of 3 falls match a couple times, and now a steel cage match for the first time. So it kind of makes them feel special that it's not like every month you have a TLC match or every month you have an Elimination Chamber. It kind of makes it special, like it's the blow-off to the feud. That'll be the end of it, and it's nice that the stipulations aren't watered down. We got a highlight video package for Asuka, which was backed by a pretty cool track by Hailstorm. Casey Kelly then interviewed Noe Jose. He talked about having a big smile and his positive attitude, but he's here to fight as well. Quote-unquote, earlier today, Carmella wished Enzo a speedy recovery and how Cass is holding his own on Raw and SmackDown. She said that she's still on NXT because she has a dream to become the NXT Women's Champion. Second match was Carmella against Peyton Royce, and Graves, before the match started actually, Graves echoed my sentiment that it is ridiculous that Peyton Royce calls herself the Venus Flytrap. It's the worst, one of the worst nicknames, monikers, whatever you want to call it, in wrestling history. That might be an overstatement, but it's borderline there. They also talked about how she looks like a certain supervillain. They're referencing Poison Ivy from the Batman comic series. Royce was in control early. Carmella got a couple pin attempts in between. Royce then hit 3 suplexes, and the final one ended with the bridge. Carmella ducked the heel kick and then began her comeback. She landed a nice super kick out of the corner and the Bronco Buster before hitting the STO and the triangle leg choke to get the win. It was an alright match. Carmella's still working up her confidence in the ring. She's gotten a lot better, but against someone like Peyton Royce, who I know has experience, but it's a different stage here, it just looked a little too choreographed for me, like a little hesitant. They weren't like going at full speed. But it was a win to keep Carmella in the minds. She hovers around the title picture, really not up there yet. But maybe when Bayley gets called up, that Carmella would take her spot as the number 2. But it was what it was. Nothing really exciting in this match. We got highlights of the NXT house show from Portland. And Balor attacked Joe from behind, and there was a brawl that followed. Everyone from the back broke him up. Balor landed a dive over the top onto everyone, and then he held up the NXT title. NXT house shows are a lot of fun. They're much better than the Raw and SmackDown ones, especially the couple that I went to. I went to the one in Philly last year, and then I went to the one in Asbury Park a few months ago. It's just a lot of fun, really good environment. the crowds aren't too big, and it just feels very intimate. They're like, you're right there. The seats, pretty much anywhere you sit, it's really close. So if you have a chance to, definitely go to an NXT house show. William Regal then hosted a press conference on Facebook. This is where he announced the steel cage match. He said that the rivalry will end. That's a tongue twister. And he announced the steel cage match. Joe and Balor went back and forth with some words before they signed the contract. Joe walked off, and then they said some other things that it's going to be finished, and then Joe screamed off screen, yeah, it will, or something like that. It was what it was. It made it a little special that it was announced on Facebook. They didn't have to have the contract signing in the ring like they do on Raw and SmackDown. So it gave more time for the actual in-ring stuff. I'm okay with them hosting this stuff on either the network or YouTube or Facebook, wherever else they post their stuff, Twitter, whatever. Just not on the actual show. It kind of waters it down a little bit. And in the meantime, do they have a name for this TakeOver special? We've had Unstoppable, Respect, Rival, Arrival, Our Evolution, or Revolution, whatever you want to call that one. And then the cities, Brooklyn, Dallas, London. They don't have anything for this special. It's just TakeOver. Do you think they would boast about that? Give it some sort of name? I don't know. It's just going by TakeOver at this point. We then followed up with the Alexa and Blake Murphy stuff. Backstage, Alexa said that this was the last straw and called Blake and Murphy an embarrassment. She said it's now about her, and it'll be easier to move on and progress without 470 pounds to carry around, and then walked off. Blake and Murphy kind of stared at each other, and Blake walked off after that, and leaving Murphy just standing there. Third match, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano against Danny Burch and Rob Rising. I immediately thought of Triple H's old ring name of Terrorizing, and so did some of the other NXT universe. I heard some Terrorizing chants. We got a huge Johnny Wrestling chant as well. Gargano had the upper hand on Rob. Burch got some offense in, but Gargano and Ciampa quickly took him out. Rising got involved, giving Burch some time. Ciampa got a knee to Burch, and he got Gargano in with the hot tag. Gargano speared Rising through the ropes, landed some kicks from in and out of the ring, both of them. You had, I think it was Ciampa on the outside on the apron and Gargano on the inside. They both ran and landed some kicks, and they finished them off with a super kick and a knee to the back of the head combination. They're a fun team to watch, to be honest. They're just very explosive and very hard-hitting as well. It's very rare, because you have the Revival that's hard-hitting and American Alpha that's fun to watch. But these two, they're flashy, but they don't pander to the crowd too much. They're in, out, know what they got to do, and call it a match. They work well together. I like their moveset, their tag moveset. I think they just need to be featured more. I don't know what their deal is with Evolve or whatever it is, but they definitely need to become full-time tag team on NXT. Definitely, I mean, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa against American Alpha. Tell me you wouldn't want to see that match. I'd love to see that match at the next TakeOver special. Regal was on screen. He congratulated Enzo and Cass and the Vaudevillains for their recent success on Raw and SmackDown. He then announced that the rematch between American Alpha and the Revival would take place at TakeOver, which then led to our main event of Bayley versus Nia Jax. Nia Jax overpowered Bayley in the early going. Jax caught Bayley off the ropes and then went for a slam. Bayley countered, went for the sleeper hold early, but Jax just tossed her away like a sack of potatoes, just threw her into the mat. Bayley leapfrogged Nia, landed some strikes, but Jax again shoved her down. Bayley slammed Nia's head into the top turnbuckle a couple times. She went for the second turnbuckle, but Jax sent her head first into the second post before going to a commercial break. Back from that, Jax was targeting Bayley's left shoulder pretty often towards the end of the match as well. She locked in a nice chicken wing, and then I took her down with a short arm clothesline, but Bayley was still kicking out at this point. That fighting spirit. Bayley landed some shoulder thrusts after that. She made a little bit of comeback, but she was doing it with her bad shoulder, which kind of took me out of the moment there. Like, you're thrusting Nia Jax in the corner with your bad shoulder. You'd think you would be a little smarter about that. And then she took her down with some kicks to the knee, to the knee and the leg area. She drop kicked her off the ropes. She then sent Nia Jax to the outside and caught her breath a little bit and landed a hurricanrana from the apron to the floor. Didn't look the greatest. Bayley did the flip first, and then Nia Jax kind of somersaulted on her own. But the crowd was into it a little bit. Bayley continued with the diving crossbody, but Jax easily tossed her off to kick out. Nia Jax countered the belly to Bayley and planted her with a huge spinebuster. Bayley dodged another shoulder tackle and then locked in the guillotine choke. It wasn't fully locked in, which allowed Nia Jax to escape. Bayley, after she got tossed off, landed awkwardly on her knee, and then the ref kind of was tending to her. As soon as Bayley got to her feet, she was welcomed a huge splash in the corner by Nia Jax, and then landed the leg drop to the back of the knee, and another leg drop to the back of the head to get the win. And that's what they should have done from the beginning. That's how you make a monster heel. It doesn't help that Bayley already beat Nia Jax a few months ago, but it's a start. If you're going to have Nia Jax be the number one heel on the women's roster, you kind of need to make her look tough and then decimate the number one babyface, because that's Bayley still is the number one babyface, even though Asuka is the champ. Bayley's the number one babyface on the NXT roster. I liked it. She was just targeting any limb possible, and she didn't give a damn about Bayley. She was just targeting whatever she could to break her down and to make her not get up again. And I just hope that the eventual Nia Jax-Asuka match, because that's obviously what they're building to. They're building a match between those two. I just hope it's as good as this. I'm not expecting much better, because Nia Jax is still who she is in the ring. But Asuka could carry her to a good match. She's similar as far as the style to Bayley. A little more kick-based and a little more submission. But they have some big similarities as well. And as for Bayley, I think her run in NXT is definitely coming to an end. She's not in the title picture. She is owed a rematch, so maybe after this match, I don't know. But it looks like it's coming to an end. Maybe the night after SummerSlam, we see her called up after Sasha Banks wins the women's title. Again, this is all speculation, no spoilers or anything like that. But I definitely see that's where it's going. Sasha Banks wins the title from Charlotte. Bayley gets called up the night before, and then you start that program there. But in the meantime, Bayley's still on NXT. We still get to enjoy her for a few more months at least before her time's up. But I think they did carry her out as well, so maybe this knee injury will give her some time away from NXT, make her big comeback to cash in the title shot. Who knows? It was a good week of NXT this week. The two tag matches were really good. Obviously, the first one between Austin Aries and Shinsuke was a little one-sided. A little too one-sided for my liking, but the Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano one was a lot of fun too. Just them two in the ring, like I said, they're fun to watch. The stuff with Blake Murphy and Alexa was good. I like that development. I'm kind of interested to see where it goes, how Alexa Bliss progresses, what they do with Blake and Murphy now that they're not all a trio. And the main event, it was good. Wasn't my favorite NXT main event ever, but it told a good story as well. I don't remember them advertising anything for next week, so we're kind of going in next week blind, not knowing what matches or what segments are going to take place. Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, but we'll all find out next week. Alright guys, thanks for joining me. Episode 65 will be posted next week. I'll catch you all later. Peace.